one, huh?
Yes.
In New York, huh? But the one of New York, did you know that because it's so big, it required a special structure inside, and the structure which is inside the Statue of Liberty of New York was made by Mr. Gustave Eiffel. Oh my God! Do you want gossips? Look at the girl in red here. You see, Léa Salamé. You know, in the gossip newspapers here, they said that she went to dinner with our president 3 times. He likes blonde girls. But he has another one, huh? He has Julie, you know, so far, you know, the one that you saw in the States, Valerie, has been replaced already by an actress called Julie. Yeah, but recently they said that the president had a dinner with this one, huh? I'm a man of power. Not sexy, but man of power. Yes, yes. So, and you see, oh look, the Eiffel Tower, we lost the top.
Oh no.
So the Eiffel Tower, you know, it was created for the World Fair of 1889 by Mr. Eiffel, of course. And the construction was extremely quick, 3 years, 2 months, 3 days. It weighs 7,000 tons, 300 meters high. Normally, you know, you don't have this feeling right now, but it's 300 meters high, plus 20 meters just for the TV antennas. Did you see it sparkling already?
Yes.
Nice, huh? Romantic. 20,000 lamps for that. When we created that kind of light for the millennium, there were 40,000 lamps, but there have been changed, which was in 1875. So this place on the right, you know, the Café de la Paix, that's where we go when we want to eat the very good Napoleon's cake. You know, the one we call the millefeuille as well? You know, thin layers of crust with caramel and vanilla cream in between. Now, forget about the calories. Huh? But that's why we walk a lot in Paris. Huh? So and now we go straight until the Louvre Museum. Even for those of you going to the Louvre this afternoon, you will not see everything, because this is the largest museum in the world. And it's interesting what they did. They did a little calculation to check how much time people would pass if they would like to see everything. So they said if people want to spend just 1 second in front of each piece of art presented in the Louvre without stopping at all, okay, even for sleeping, you're going to spend more than 3 months. Yeah, well, that's a very big place. Huh? So what was that before? What was the Louvre? It was first a stronghold, and you will see the remains of that stronghold for those of you going to the Louvre. But then that one was demolished, and when we're going to drive with the bus through the courtyard of the Louvre, you will see the Louvre started in the 16th century and completed by Napoleon III. So 300 years of construction in the courtyard, plus of course the pyramid of glass of the Chinese architect Ming Pei that I'm going to show you. So, of course, the Avenue of the Opera, it's like the Champs-Élysées, a very good business card if you have your company here. Always, always busy, except on during the weekend, of course. And the square where we are arriving now, look on the left-hand side, you're behind the white coaches that you have here. You've got a building with columns, and this is a very old theater, 1686. La Comédie Française, the theater of the great writer Molière, who created the French comedy. He worked for Louis XIV, and his theater still working is here. because it was protected by the king who lived in the Louvre before Versailles and Louis XIV. And even behind this building, you have where was the house of Louis XIV's brother, Philippe d'Orléans, which is now the Royal Palace, so who was also a protector of Mr. Molière. Look, keep looking on the left. You see that kind of natural entrance with bubbles of glass of different colors? It's lovely, lovely. And the glass is coming from the island of Murano, nearby Venice. So we're going to cross the Louvre. On the wing you see now just in front of us is the wing of Napoleon III, and that's why you have all those generals everywhere. And you've got, of course, different periods. And you see that now we are in the really old part of Paris. If you look at the plate, you know, the blue plate on the right hand side, for instance, you see that just above the name of the street you have the number 1. You see, first arrondissement, first district of Paris. You see the difference with the bus before us? Yeah, I told you Dino is super. Look at the pyramid on the left, everybody. Inaugurated in 1989. Very controversial when it was built. People were really upset. You know, it was like the Eiffel Tower in its time. You know, people said, oh, it's too modern for the stone around. And the President Mitterrand, who chose the project, he had even to build a fake pyramid to show how would be the result. You know, and now it's like the Eiffel Tower. You cannot separate that from the landscape of Paris, and it's very pretty at night when it's lit up. So the little arch that you see on the right-hand side. Okay, so the arch, it was built by Napoleon, and before it was the entrance gate of the Tuileries Palace. Have you heard of the Tuileries Palace? No? It was in fact you had a palace between the two highest buildings. You see? You've got some higher ones, like the one we have here, Pavillon de Flore. You've got another one on at the end of the opposite wing, and the view was closed by another palace called Tuileries, and this one was burned to the ground during the Revolution of 1871. Which is nice because we have a better view right there. Huh? So that's why you're going to come this afternoon. Huh? And in the middle of the garden, underneath, that's where you have the upside down pyramid. And we're driving along the wing of the Louvre, which dates from the 16th century. Huh? You have the letter H in the frieze that you see, huh? And even look below the balcony. You see the big letter H? For Henry II, married to Catherine of Medici from Florence. So 16th century. Then you see the style is changing. So look now. That style Louis XIII. Look at the balcony. You see L for Louis XIII and A for Anne of Austria, his wife. And then again, look, another style with double L. Louis XIV, 17th century before Versailles. Okay? And now look on the other side. You see the dome of the Académie Française, the French Academy. There are 5 different academies inside, in fact. And you've got that balustrade, you know that bridge, the Bridge of the Arts, is one of the most beautiful normally, not now. Guess what? People put locks all along the balustrade of that old bridge, so the former balustrade fell down in the river. We took off 45 tons of locks. So now they are rebuilding the balustrade, but that's why it looks like that. But look, people put blocks on the sides, so pretty soon the sides are going to fall down as well. Okay, keep looking on the right hand side and you see the beginning of the city island. Île de la Cité. Île de la Cité, where Paris started. This is really the cradle of Paris. And another nice bridge called the Pont Neuf, which means new bridge, but it is the oldest one of Paris, because this is the first one made of stones instead of wood, and the very first one without any houses along the bridge. I don't know if some of you have been to Florence, if you've seen the Ponte Vecchio in Florence, you know, with all the houses along the bridges. All the bridges were like that before in Europe, because people, if you lived on the bridge, you didn't have to pay the tax to cross the bridges. Yeah. But here, there was a big fire. So people burned, the houses burned, the bridge burned. So many people died, and the king said, no more bridge of wood, no more houses on the bridges. So that's the first type like that. The building itself is called the Palais of Chaillot. Built also for World Fair of 1937. And you've got 4 museums inside. The wing on the left, you have the Museum of Mankind and Maritime Museum, and the wing on the right, the Museum of Architecture and Museum of the Cinema. Usually the fountains are working, but they make them work there essentially at night in the same time than the Eiffel Tower. So we are crossing now a very chic area of Paris, which is the 16th district. Look at the plates everywhere. You see the blue plates right here? You have above everywhere. You've got above the name of the streets, you've got a little number, and this number indicates to you where you are. Paris is composed of 20 districts, and they are laid out like a snail according to the evolution of the city. So when you say you live in the 16th, the 8th, the 7th, that means you've got money. Where the Spirit, you know, the docking of the Spirit is the 15th district, which is a very good area, family area, very nice, very safe and all that. It tends to change because the wealthy people, you know, the bobo, the yuppies, we say. Yuppies, and we say bobo in French. It's too expensive sometimes, you know, to live in the 16th and the 7th, which are like in sandwich with the 15th. So now they start moving to the 15th, so the prices of the real estate of the 15th is going up terribly right now. The building in with the scaffoldings you have on your left-hand side, this is the Economic Council. Conseil économique et social. That's where we define the business policy for France and for Europe. And just ahead of us, you're going to see Mr. George Washington. Going to have different statues of famous men. I will show you also the Mr. Jefferson as well, but here it's Washington, who was a close friend of our Lafayette, you know, the young Lafayette. Yes. And Lafayette will even name one of his sons, George. So this is a gift of New York to Paris. And the building where you see the tiger, you see here with the tower, this is a museum. Museum Guimet, Museum for the Art of Orient. So the little market you saw on the right hand side, we've got things like that twice a week in each district of Paris, and we absolutely adore that. Everywhere in France, French people, we adore the markets. That's where we can get fresh fruits, fish, meat, all that. Of course, the most beautiful are in the south of France. With all the flowers, all the fruits and all that. And also at that time of the year, there is one market which is very, very popular. The center of France, nearby Sarlat, for the truffle. What we call the black diamond. Yeah, oh, so good, so good. Yeah, and look at those beautiful trees of the season here. And we're going to start collecting the chestnut. Are the ones you see here along the way. So the tree is losing their bark, like the one that you have just ahead of us, that you call sycamore. For us, we call that platane. Platane. Yeah. Otherwise, you've got also with big leaf, you have the wild horse chestnut trees. Those ones here, we collect the fruit that we put in the cupboards to protect the wool and the cashmere, from the mouse. Yeah. But you don't eat them, otherwise you go to the bathrooms. Yeah. We eat the fruits of those chestnuts for the species which is in the south of France. Those ones we start collecting them right now, and we're going to cook them during 1 month in sugar, different concentration of sugar, to prepare Christmas. We're going to make the marron glacé, the glazed chestnut, which is very, very good. And we make a cream as well, crème de marron. So good. And we make a soup, by the way, as well, with the chestnut. Châtaigne, soup de châtaigne. It's so good. So we are going to arrive to the Arch of Triumph, our first monument. This is the Charles de Gaulle Square. And if we would take some altitude, you would see that there are 12 avenues starting from the Arch of Triumph, with practically all the avenues with a name in relation with Napoleon the First, because he's the one who is at the origin of the Arch of Triumph that you see now. He started this arch in 1806. I remind you that he was crowned in December 1804. But then, 1815, defeat of Waterloo. The arch was not finished at the time. They're going to finish completely the sculptures decorating the arch 30 years later. And why that date? Because 30 years later, that's when we got back the body of Napoleon. Remember, he was in exile after Waterloo. To be sure he would not come back, the coalition of different countries sent him far away on the island of St. Helena. He will stay there 6 years alive, and then more years dead. So he was buried at St. Helena, of course, and it's only 19 years after his death that we got him back to Paris, and his coffin was exposed under the arch. So, very easy traffic today, because usually it's a totally crazy square.
There's no lines in the road.
Yeah, look at the statues here. The lady holding the sword, this is La Marseillaise, our national song. And the flame and the flowers, this is the tomb of the unknown soldier. Soldier of the World War I, whose body was picked up in the trenches of Verdun. Big battles there, the World War I. And buried here at the same time than the soldier of Westminster Abbey in London. The names you see inscribed on the arch, the little names are the names of the officers of Napoleon, and the big names, the victories of Napoleon. Now look on the right-hand side. Oh, it's really foggy, but you see a little bit like a cube and high buildings? Okay, this is the suburb called La Défense. So it couldn't be Paris. For us, immediately when we see such high buildings, we know right away it's not Paris, because Paris, you cannot build such high buildings. The limit for the construction is 37 meters high. Okay, but we needed like a Manhattan center, so it's over there, La Défense, that you can access with the metro. And we've got a very good metro network, very cheap as well, if you compare to some other countries like London. And no strike today. Good. Because November might be hard in terms of that. Our government will inform us about the new reform for our pensions of retirement and the age of working. We have had already a reform a year and a half ago, and we have another one right now. And new taxes as well. Huh? So, and now we are going to drive down the Champs-Élysées. The Champs-Élysées. Totally at the end, you have the Louvre. Huh? So, long, and practically 2.5 miles long. Very, very long. Created during the 18th century by the handsome king you will see in Versailles, you know, on paintings in Versailles, the Louis the 15th. I'm pretty sure you heard about his beautiful, gorgeous mistress, Madame de Pompadour. You know her? Marquise de Pompadour, smart girl, huh? And so Louis XV created the Champs-Élysées and the Concorde Square. It will be immediately very trendy, except at night. At night, to become trendy, we will have to wait for, you know, the creation of gas lamps along the Champs-Élysées. Although before it was a coupe-gorge, which means cut the throat, when it was in the darkness. But very trendy. That's where we have all the celebrations, like the Bastille Day, you know, the 14th of July. A week later, we have also the arrival of the bicycle race, the Tour de France. The last run, they do 9 times the Tour of Paris, and the arrival is at the Concorde Square. And look on the right-hand side where you see the Louis Vuitton store. This is the beginning of the famous George V Avenue. And starting from here down to the round point of the Champs-Élysées, you will see that section of the Champs-Élysées, we call it the Golden Triangle of Fashion. With all the series of big brands, you know, Dior, Chanel, all that. You really go critical there. And Fouquet's, you look at the red awning here, a super gastronomic restaurant as well. Typical place if you want to be seen. So, and exceptionally, you know, normally all the stores are closed on Sunday. This might be changed because a change has been voted at the assembly. It's not yet, you know, official, but so far, you know, the only place which can stay open on Sunday, that's the Champs-Élysées, non-stop. Otherwise, you know, if you're open on Sunday, you could get a fine. Except for the bakers, the pastry shop, and some food stores can be open in the morning. Otherwise, you have to close. But recently, our government has decided to authorize some stores in the touristic areas to be open, but the employees will have to be volunteers. You cannot force anybody to work on Sunday. Yeah. And we work, I remind you, 35 hours a week. Huh? We've got 5 weeks of paid holidays, and 6 if you work for the government. So let's go down the Champs-Élysées. And it's a very good address if you know, because all the buildings you've got around us, you know, that's essentially where you've got headquarters of famous companies. Not so many people are living, are having apartments overlooking the Champs-Élysées. Recently they checked that, and there are 8 people only. Huh? It's too busy, you know, non-stop, so they live in the blocks behind it. Look at the building on the left-hand side, then where you see the lights here. Beautiful building. Look at the decorated balcony here. It was built for a Russian girl, so beautiful, mistress of Napoleon III. Same thing for that next building with the beautiful gate. Another mistress of Napoleon III. Napoleon, the Napoleons, they loved women. Huh? But I'm going to talk about two Napoleons. Napoleon the First, the one that you know, of course, the fighter, the stratege, the one who lived at the beginning of the 19th century. And I'm going to talk a lot in Paris also about Napoleon the Third and his wife, Eugénie de Montijo. So this one, he lived at the end of the 19th century. He was related to Napoleon the First because he was his nephew. He was not at all a fighter, a stratege, one war, one disaster. But he's the one who changed Paris. The Paris you're going to see today is the Paris we owe essentially to Napoleon III. So two very luxury streets coming on the right-hand side, Montaigne and Franklin Roosevelt. Luxury stores as well everywhere in those streets. And now the second half of the Champs-Élysées, it's more devoted to museums. And you see we start preparing the Christmas lane. You see already the lights, we prepare. We're going to have an official inauguration, I think it's mid-November, something like that. And we're going to create like little chalet along the Champs-Élysées with souvenirs, all the thing in relation with Christmas. So, and you're going to see soon the Grand Palais, Petit Palais. You know, those beautiful buildings coming next. But before Dino returns, let me show you, because it's not easy to see. Do you see like a gate behind the trees? You see I'm pointing out the direction here because we are not allowed anymore to turn around the block. You see my hand, everybody? Over there. You see behind the trees? Look, when Dino is going to turn right, you're going to see it much better. This is the Élysée Palace, the official residence of our president. You see that, everybody? Yes? Yes. Look at the gate. And our president's girlfriend is living nearby. Julie Gaillet. An actress that nobody knew before. But now we know her, because as soon as we discovered she was the new one. You know, the TV channels presented her movies. Naked like a worm. Yeah, we know our president's playground. So look on the right and the left. On the right hand side you have the Grand Palais, and on the left hand side the Petit Palais. Both of them for exhibitions, temporary exhibitions, and they were built for the World Fair of 1900. 1900. That means the World Fair, the one after the Eiffel Tower. Okay, and just ahead of us, but don't worry, we're going to come back here during the second half of the tour. You've got the Invalid. You know that golden dome you have in front of us? People in the back of the bus, don't worry. We're going to turn left and you're going to see it. This dome is covered with 12 kilos of gold of 24 carats. Today, when you're going to see gilded monuments, outside it's always 24 carats gold. 18 carats, we still use it, but for the inside. Outside, we use 24 carats. And that building, that's where is Napoleon's tomb. And the lovely bridge, Alexander III. Once again, we're going to come back to this area. So far, you know, during our tour, we do like a city tour like we started here. We're going to make a long stop, a little bit more than an hour, at the Cathedral Notre Dame. That's when we're going to use the headsets, okay? I will give you a guided tour, and then you're going to have free time for a little coffee, your pictures, and bathrooms. And then we're going to have a second part of the tour. And at the end of the second part of the tour, we're going to have our stop at the Eiffel Tower. And I'll remind you that we've got bathrooms on the bus if you need to go while we are driving. Yeah? Okay, so now we're going to arrive to the largest square we have in Paris, which is also the last of the 5 royal squares we have in the city. This one was built by Louis XV. It looks strange now because you see you've got all those modern construction who are celebrating the 300 years of a big company created during Louis XIV's time. You know, now it's called Saint-Gobain. I mean, maybe some of you know this big company, French company called Saint-Gobain, but originally it was a manufacturer of glass and mirrors of Louis XIV. That this company which created the mirrors you will see in Versailles in the Hall of Mirrors. So they are celebrating all that. That's why it looks different right now. But what was there before all that? Even before the obelisk, first you had the statue of Louis XV, melted down during the Revolution to create cannons, and then replaced by the guillotine. And it is on that square that we beheaded Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. So for the king, the guillotine was placed on the left-hand side of the square. But for the queen, it was transferred in front of the entrance of the Tuileries Gardens you see on the right-hand side. It was the best show in town. Everybody wanted to see her head falling down in the basket. Yeah, and it is also there that we beheaded Danton and Robespierre, the leaders of the revolutions. And of course, after that, we placed the obelisk in 1830. But many people, look at the name, Ludovicus Philippus. You see engraved in gold on the pedestal. That's the King Louis Philippe, whose reign started in 1830, who placed that obelisk. Many people think it's Bonaparte who put that, who stole that when he was in Egypt in 1799. No, we didn't steal that obelisk, not that one. But that one is a gift from Egypt to France because it's a man called Champollion who discovered how to read the hieroglyphics thanks to the Rosetta Stone, which is now in London. So that's why we got that. Okay, Dino's doing another tour so that you could see very well, you know, the obelisk. You see on the pedestal how it was taken from Luxor in Egypt. The transportation took 7 years. Okay, look again at the Champs-Élysées from where we are, while it's still quiet, and it's very nice on the right-hand side. And the fountains you have here, this fountain represents the rivers of France. For instance, if you want to represent La Seine, it's going to be a woman because it is a feminine name. By the way, do you know the meaning of La Seine? In Latin, it's Sicuana, which means snake. You will see when you're going to go to Normandy, it's like, you know, a river with many, many curves and many tributaries as well. And on the right-hand side, you've got the Tuileries Gardens, which was the royal garden of the Louvre. And just ahead of us, you have the first building on the right-hand side. This is a maritime ministry, but during the time of the kings and queens, it was called the garde-meuble. That means that's where they repaired, maintained the furniture of all the different castles. And that square was also the safety box, where were kept the crown jewels. You're going to see some of those crown jewels in the Louvre this afternoon. And especially we got back two magnificent parures. A parure, if you wear that now, you look like a Christmas tree. This is the season, but it's like a big thing, you know, the necklace, the brooch, the earrings, the crown for every day, the crown for the ceremony, the big thing. And we just got back in the Louvre the parure that Napoleon gave to his second wife to celebrate the birth of their son. Look at Maxime's on the left. No longer among the top 10. Good, of course, and expensive, but you know, I mean, they need to change the chef, I bet. Yeah. And just ahead of us, the church. It looks like a temple because when it was built, it was supposed to be a temple dedicated to famous women and men of France, but it was turned into a church in the 19th century, and it's dedicated to Mary Magdalene.
That's pretty.
Look on the left, everybody. You see Hermes? This is a super luxury street also, Rue du Faubourg Saint-Honoré, with many luxury stores. Hermes, I remind you that they created a bag for Grace Kelly. Now then, they still produce that bag for every collection in a different color.
That's the name.
So, and now we are going towards another very, very important quarter of Paris. Very busy. It's really the quarter of the banks, of the department stores. That's the quarter created by Napoleon III. Remember the one I mentioned earlier? The nephew of the first end of the 19th century. And you're going to start seeing buildings which are typical of the Haussmann style. What is Haussmann? For instance, you want to buy an apartment, you go to a real estate agency, they say, oh, what do you like? Modern, Latin Quarter, or do you want Haussmann type? Haussmann type, that's the buildings you have, for instance, on the left. You see that one, or the ones on the right now. This is the buildings built during the time of Napoleon III, with high ceilings, nice white stone like that. You see the one, for instance, on the left again. This is Haussmann style. Baron Haussmann, the architect of Napoleon III. And Napoleon III, he had been raised in London, because when he was a child, it was the Bourbon leading France. So he was in exile over there. And then he will take the power, and he will decide to modernize Paris, which was still like a medieval type city. He wanted to compete with London, which was the most modern one. So he destroyed 60%. Look at the beautiful building on the right. He destroyed 60% of the medieval Paris to create those large avenues and what you see right now. So really, we owe him that. Café de la Paix, for instance, that you have in the super hotel. The Grand Hotel you've got here, they were built in the same time than the Opera House you're going to see. That means 1862. 1862. Look at the beautiful opera. All gold of 24 carats. And you see just below the frieze of the roof, you see the medallions with the N for Napoleon III, E for his wife, Eugenie. All gold. Eugenie, super beautiful girl, big brown eyes, long dark hairs. She got married to Napoleon. She was 26, which is extremely late for a girl in those times. Napoleon III, in fact, he wanted to marry a princess of Europe, but nobody wanted to marry a Napoleon at the time. And too risky, So finally he fell in love with that beautiful Spanish countess. With not such a good reputation, she was nicknamed the man's heater. Married at 26, But she's going to change because she had a little physical problem, the poor girl, when she gave birth to the son. The birth was terrible. They had to pull the baby with forceps in such a way that they broke her pelvis bone. Terrible. So, of course, that reduced her activity then. So that's why Napoleon then he went to so many women. So it's beautiful opera. Look on the right-hand side, you have another temple, the Temple of Shopping, the Galerie Lafayette. I really encourage you to go to this one where you have the big sticks of lasers lit up at night, because right in the middle, in the center of this building, you have an enormous cupola of glass, which is magnificent. The construction dates from Napoleon III as well. So the opera is still working, by the way. We have all the ballet there. That's where is born the romantic ballet with tutu. And we produce every year 6,000 pairs of ballet shoes. Every year. And you know the wife of our new manager of the dance, Natalie Portman. Remember? Benjamin Millepied, he's a French, but before being the manager of the opera in Paris, he worked in the States, and especially he trained Natalie for the Black Swan movie. Yeah? So look at this beautiful building, and especially the ramp that you see on the left-hand side, built at the request of the emperor. He wanted to be able to get inside the building without leaving his coach. But he never used it, because in the meantime we had the very big, terrible defeat of Sedan, 1870, you know, the Prussian War, which is a very important, the Prussian War, 1870, if you want to understand how Europe was built. You know, it will have so many consequences. I remind you that's when France, we're going to lose Alsace and Lorraine provinces. And when we're going to have to pay 5 billion of solid gold to Germany. And that's when, you know, the resentment started to be